The massive Concordat fleet appeared in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning in 2150. Thousands of alien vessels filled the sky, their hulls gleaming with an odd metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors under Earth's sunlight. They had arrived without warning, their faster-than-light signatures somehow masked until they were practically on top of the planet. Admiral Dai stood on the bridge of the HFY Defender, the flagship of Earth's space defense fleet. His weathered face showed no emotion as he stared at the holographic display, showing the sheer number of alien vessels surrounding his home world. 3 decades of military service hadn't prepared him for this moment. Earth had long suspected intelligent life existed elsewhere, but first contact was supposed to be a carefully managed diplomatic event, not what looked like an invasion fleet. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Communications Officer Mena. Her fingers flew across her console as she worked to process the incoming signal. "It's being automatically translated." "Put it through," Dai ordered, straightening his uniform jacket. The crew around him tensed as the main view screen flickered to life. The alien on screen made several humans gasp. It had pale blue skin stretched over a frame that seemed almost human, except for its unusual proportions. 4 large eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, blinked independently of each other. When it spoke, its mouth moved in strange ways that didn't match the translated words coming through the ship's speakers. "Humans of Earth, we are the Galactic Concordat. Your species is too violent to join galactic society. Surrender your weapons and accept our governance, or face extinction." A cold silence fell over the bridge. Dai felt the weight of humanity's fate on his shoulders. The Earth Federation Council would be watching this exchange, but protocol gave him authority to respond to immediate threats. "This is Admiral Dai of the Earth Federation," he replied, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. "We have no quarrel with you, but we will not surrender our sovereignty." The alien's multiple eyes blinked simultaneously, creating an eerie ripple effect across its face. "Then you choose war." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Battle stations," Dai commanded. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship as crew members raced to their positions. General broadcast to all Earth vessels. Defensive Formation Alpha. Protect the planet at all costs. Earth's defense fleet of 50 ships moved into a protective barrier around the planet. Though humanity had expanded to Mars and several large space stations throughout the solar system, most of the population still lived on Earth. The planet's orbital defense platforms powered up, their weapon systems targeting the nearest alien vessels. "We're outnumbered 10 to 1, said Tactical Officer Jun, his face pale as he analyzed the data streaming in. "Their ships are showing energy readings unlike anything we've seen before. But they don't know what we're capable of either," Dai replied. "Sometimes uncertainty is our best weapon." The first Concordat ships opened fire. Streaks of bluish energy lanced toward Earth's defenses. The planet's atmospheric shield flared as it absorbed the initial barrage, but the strain on the system was immediately apparent. "Return fire," Dai ordered. "Target their lead vessels. Show them we're not helpless." Earth's response surprised the aliens. The Federation's quantum phase cannons fired precisely targeted beams that somehow bypassed the aliens' shielding technology. Several Concordat ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, the debris creating hazardous fields that disrupted their neat formation. "They're adjusting their shield frequencies," Jun reported. "Our advantage won't last long." The alien fleet's response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of ships concentrated their fire on specific points in Earth's defense network. 3 orbital platforms overloaded and exploded. 2 Earth vessels, the Indomitable and the Swift Justice, were destroyed with all hands on board. The bridge of the Defender shook violently as a concentrated blast hit their shields. Power fluctuated, and emergency lighting kicked in momentarily before the main systems recovered. "Shields at 60%, reported Engineering Officer Ta. "One more hit like that, and we'll be vulnerable." Dai gripped the command rail tightly. "Evasive pattern Delta. Keep moving and firing. Don't give them a stationary target." For 6 brutal hours, Earth's defenders fought with everything they had. The odds were impossible, but humanity's weapons proved more effective than the Concordat had apparently expected. The alien fleet lost 30 ships to Earth's 20, but their numerical advantage remained overwhelming. The Defender took another direct hit. This time, part of the hull breached, and emergency force fields activated to prevent decompression. Casualties on decks 5 through 8, reported Medical Officer Sue. Emergency teams responding. Dai knew they couldn't hold out much longer. The remaining Earth ships were damaged, their crews exhausted, and their ammunition nearly depleted. He prepared to order a tactical retreat to Mars when something unexpected happened. The Concordat fleet suddenly began pulling back. "They're retreating," Jun said in disbelief, staring at his tactical display. "All Concordat vessels are disengaging and moving toward Jupiter's orbit." "That makes no sense," Dai muttered. "They had us on the ropes. Why pull back now?" "Maybe we hurt them more than we realized," suggested Muna from communications. Day shook his head. "No, they're regrouping, planning something else." He turned to his executive officer. "How long until our fleet is combat ready again?" "At least 48 hours for basic repairs, sir. Longer for full combat capability." Day nodded grimly. "Then we have 48 hours to prepare for round 2. And this time, we need a better plan than just standing our ground." In the aftermath of the battle, as damage reports flooded in and rescue operations commenced, Dai stared at the tactical display showing the Concordat fleet gathering near Jupiter. The aliens had underestimated humanity's defensive capabilities, but Earth had been lucky. Next time, the Concordat would be better prepared. "Sir," Minna called out, "I'm receiving priority messages from the Federation Council. They're convening an emergency session and request your immediate report." "Tell them I'll be there shortly," Day replied. He turned to his executive officer. "Have all department heads prepare status reports. And get me everything we have on the Concordat's weapons and tactics." As he left the bridge to report to Earth's leadership, Dai knew humanity had been given a precious gift: time. The question was, would it be enough? Lieutenant Yuna moved carefully through the narrow corridors of the captured Concordat scout ship. The alien vessel had been disabled during the battle and towed to Earth's orbital shipyard for study. The air inside smelled strange, not unpleasant, but definitely not human. A mixture of something like cinnamon and ozone that made her nose tingle. "Watch your step here," warned Technician Bai as they stepped over a tangle of what looked like living cables. "We think these might be part of the ship's nervous system." Yuna nodded, clutching her data scanner tightly. As head of the Earth Federation's Sino-Linguistics Division, she had been tasked with extracting and translating information from the ship's data cores. The technology was unlike anything humans had encountered before, but after 3 days of non-stop work, she had managed to create an interface that could access at least some of the alien data. In a chamber that appeared to be the ship's information center, Yuna connected her scanner to a pulsing crystalline structure. "Beginning download," she said as symbols began flowing across her screen. Hours passed as she sorted through navigation charts, crew logs, and what seemed to be scientific data. Most of it was still incomprehensible despite her translation algorithms. Then she found something different, a file that seemed to contain historical records rather than technical data. As her translation program processed the information, her eyes widened. "This can't be right," she whispered, rechecking her work. But the translation held. According to the Concordat records, their entire civilization lived in fear of returning world eaters, massive warships that had once terrorized the galaxy thousands of years ago. Yuna rushed to the communication station. "Admiral Dai needs to see this immediately." Admiral Dai arrived at the secure briefing room 12 hours later. Dark circles under his eyes showed he hadn't slept since the battle. The Federation Council had been in continuous emergency session, preparing Earth for the Concordat's return. "This better be important, Lieutenant," he said as he took a seat. "It is, sir," Yuna replied, activating the holographic display. The Concordat attacked us because they're afraid of us. Not because of what we've done, but because of what they believe we are. The display showed ancient alien text alongside translation notes. According to their historical records, 50,000 years ago, the galaxy was terrorized by a civilization they called the World Eaters, who possessed technology far beyond anything the Concordat has now. She switched the display to show spacecraft designs. These are their images of the World Eater vessels. Admiral Da leaned forward, his fatigue forgotten. Those look like designs we found in Earth's ancient ruins. Yuna finished. I sent these images to Professor Tai at the Global Archaeological Institute. He confirmed it immediately. The door opened and Professor Tai hurried in, carrying several data tablets. The old man's eyes were bright with excitement despite his disheveled appearance. Admiral, what Lieutenant Yuna discovered changes everything we know about human history, he said without preamble. He tapped his tablet, and new images appeared on the display. Ancient stone carvings, underwater structures, and desert geoglyphs from around Earth. These symbols in the Nazca Desert, these underwater structures near Okinawa, archaeologists have debated their meaning for centuries, Professor Todd explained, his voice rising with excitement. We thought they were religious symbols or astronomical markers, but they're not just decorative. They're blueprints. He overlaid the ancient Earth images with the Concordat's World Eater schematics. The match was undeniable. How is this possible? Admiral Day asked. I believe, Professor Ta said slowly, that humans might be descendants of these feared ancient warriors. The World Eaters might have been our ancestors. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If that's true, Yuna said, then the Concordat didn't attack us because we're too violent to join galactic society. They attacked because they recognized something in us, some connection to the civilization they fear most. Admiral Dai stood up and paced the room. This is valuable intelligence, but how does it help us fight them? They still outnumber us 10 to 1. Professor Ta smiled for the first time. Because, Admiral, if we are descended from these World Eaters, then their technology might still be somewhere on Earth, waiting to be found. Within days, research teams around the world began re-examining archaeological sites with new purpose. Scientists studied previously unexplained technological anomalies, strange artifacts that seemed to defy conventional analysis, unusual radiation patterns at ancient sites, peculiar metallic alloys found in prehistoric strata. Yuna worked with Professor Ta to cross-reference Earth locations with the data from the Concordat ship. Their work pointed to something buried deep in the Gobi Desert, a location marked in both Concordat warning charts and ancient Earth maps. The expedition team arrived at the desolate location 3 weeks after the initial battle with the Concordat. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a massive structure buried 200 meters beneath the sand. Whatever it is, it's made of a material our scanners can barely penetrate, the team leader reported. They set up a drilling operation immediately. For 5 days they worked around the clock, fighting against time as reports came in of Concordat scout ships testing Earth's outer system defenses. On the 6th day, they broke through. Yuna was with Admiral Dad when they descended into the ancient chamber. The air inside was perfectly preserved, with no trace of dust despite thousands of years of burial. Lights activated automatically as they entered, illuminating a vast complex of alien architecture that somehow felt oddly familiar. It recognized our presence, Yuna whispered. The systems are still active after all this time. In the central chamber, they found what they were searching for. A massive holographic projection activated, showing detailed schematics of starships unlike anything humans had built, but exactly matching the World Eaters from Concordat legends. These aren't just any warships, said the engineering specialist who had accompanied them. These designs, the power generation alone is beyond theoretical limits, and these weapons systems, they could tear apart a planet. Admiral Dai stared at the ancient designs, his mind racing. Earth had less than 2 weeks before the Concordat would likely return with reinforcements. The designs before him represented technology centuries beyond current human capabilities. But the alternative was extinction. "Send all this data to the orbital shipyards immediately," he ordered. "Priority clearance to all our best engineers and scientists." He looked around the ancient chamber, feeling the weight of history pressing down on them. "Begin construction immediately." As they prepared to leave, Yuna noticed something else in the chamber, a sealed container with markings similar to the ship designs. Inside, they found what appeared to be a data storage device, far more sophisticated than the Concordat technology. "This might contain the knowledge we need to actually build these ships," she said, carefully securing the device. Admiral Dan nodded. "Then we better hope we can access it, because right now, these ancient ships are our only hope of survival." Earth's entire industrial capacity shifted to building 3 massive Titan-class battleships. Every factory, every shipyard, every resource was dedicated to this single purpose. The blueprints from the Gobi Desert facility were distributed to manufacturing centers across the solar system. The Federation Council declared a state of emergency, putting all civilian production on hold. Engineer Jin stood in the massive orbital shipyard above Mars, staring at the quantum propulsion system plans displayed on his workstation. Dark circles shadowed his eyes from 4 straight days without proper sleep. Behind him, thousands of workers swarmed over the skeleton of what would become the first Titan-class battleship. "This shouldn't be possible," he muttered, running calculations for the 5th time. The energy requirements alone were beyond anything humanity had ever achieved. The quantum field manipulator described in the ancient plans would allow the ship to bend spacetime itself, but the power needed was astronomical. Jin's assistant offered him another cup of stimulant-laced coffee. "The Admiral is asking for another progress report, sir." "Tell him we're still working on the power problem," Jin said without looking up. "The technology is sound in theory, but we can't generate enough energy to make it work." As they worked, reports arrived from Earth's outer colonies. The Concordat forces had begun surgical strikes against human outposts. A mining facility on Europa was destroyed. 3 transport ships near Saturn vanished. A small colony on Ganymede sent a desperate distress call before going silent. These weren't full-scale attacks. They were probes, testing Earth's defenses while the main Concordat fleet gathered strength beyond Jupiter. In the Mars Command Center, Admiral Day reviewed the latest reconnaissance data. The alien fleet had grown to over 800 vessels. Their main assault was coming soon. "How much more time do we need?" he asked the chief project engineer. "Weeks, at least," came the reluctant reply. "The hulls are taking shape, but the propulsion and weapons systems remain theoretical. We understand the principles, but implementation is proving challenging." Day slammed his fist on the table. "We don't have weeks. Tell Jin and his team they have 7 days. Whatever it takes." The shipyards orbiting Mars worked around the clock. Engineers, scientists, and military personnel fought exhaustion as they raced against time. The 3 massive ships took shape hour by hour as teams worked in shifts, never pausing. The Titan-class battleships were unlike anything humans had built before. Each was 5 kilometers long, with hull plating made from a previously unknown alloy that the ancient blueprints specified down to the molecular level. Manufacturing it required rebuilding entire factories to handle the exotic materials. On day 5, Jin faced another setback. The power core prototype for the first ship overloaded during testing, vaporizing a test chamber and killing 2 engineers. The energy matrix simply wouldn't stabilize. "It's like the technology is waiting for something," Jin reported to the Project Oversight Committee after another failed test. His hands shook from exhaustion and stress. "We're following the blueprints exactly, but it's as if there's a missing component that the original designers didn't include in the plans." As he spoke, a message came through from Earth. Dr. Moon, head of the Neural Interface Research Team, requested an immediate conference. Her face appeared on the main screen, her expression excited despite obvious fatigue. "We've made a breakthrough with the control systems," she announced. The original designs contained what appeared to be the ship's bridge, but the control interfaces were minimal, far too simple for operating such complex vessels. The ancient data storage device contained neural mapping protocols, Dr. Moon explained. The technology isn't designed to be operated with physical controls. It's meant to interface directly with human brainwaves. She displayed brain scans on the screen. These ships aren't just vessels. They're extensions of the pilot. The control system forms a symbiotic link with the operator's mind. Jin straightened in his chair. That's it. That's why the power core won't stabilize. It's designed to be regulated through the neural interface. For the first time in days, hope spread through the project team. If Dr. Moon was right, they might actually complete the Titans in time. 2 days later, a Concordat scout ship breached Earth's outer defenses, broadcasting a single message before being destroyed: surrender or perish. You have one planetary rotation to decide. The final assault was coming. At the Mars shipyard, Jin supervised the installation of the neural interface systems into the first Titan battleship. Dr. Moon had arrived from Earth with a team of specialists and 20 carefully selected pilots. These individuals had been chosen for their unique brainwave patterns that matched the requirements in the ancient data. Will this really work? Jin asked as Dr. Moon calibrated the interface. In theory, she replied. She looked at the pilot, a woman named Hannah who had previously flown smaller spacecraft. Are you ready to try? Hannah nodded and laid back in the neural cradle. As the interface activated, the ship's systems came to life around them. Lights flickered on throughout the massive vessel. The power core, which had resisted all attempts at stabilization, suddenly pulsed with steady energy. It's working, Jin whispered in awe. The ship is responding to her. Hannah's eyes were closed, but a smile spread across her face. I can feel it, she said. The ship, it's like it's part of me. I know how to fly it. Over the next 24 hours, the other 2 Titans were similarly activated. Each responded to its pilot, systems coming online that had defied traditional engineering approaches. As the Concordat fleet began its approach to Earth, the 3 battleships were completed. In a solemn ceremony, Admiral Day named them Protector, Defender, and Guardian, the Titans of Earth. The ships were still untested in actual combat. Many systems remained theoretical. The crews were minimal, just enough to support the neural pilots and maintain essential functions. But they were humanity's last hope. Jin watched from the Mars Command Center as the 3 massive vessels moved away from the shipyards, their engines glowing with unearthly light. Will they be enough? Asked an officer beside him. Jin thought of the ancient civilization that had created these ships, the supposed world eaters that the Concordat feared so much. Were humans truly their descendants? And if so, what did that mean for humanity's future? I guess we're about to find out, he replied as the Titans accelerated toward Earth to meet the incoming Concordat armada. Behind them, the shipyards continued working, preparing to build more Titans if humanity survived long enough to need them. But everyone knew the truth. Everything depended on these first 3 ships and their pilots. If they failed, there would be no second chance. Earth's conventional fleet engaged the Concordat armada in high orbit. The sky above the planet lit up with explosions as ships from both sides were hit, damaged, or destroyed. From Earth's surface, people watched through telescopes or on video feeds, seeing only distant flashes that meant life or death for thousands. Admiral Dai stood in the command center, his face illuminated by the blue glow of the holographic battle display. He watched as ship after ship in his fleet vanished from the tactical screen. The Federation had committed everything they had, 43 warships and 36 fighter squadrons. Just 2 hours into the battle, 15 of those ships were gone. Admiral, the Concordat forces are pushing through Sector 7, reported Tactical Officer Jun. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly as he updated the display. The orbital defense platforms can't target their ships fast enough. We can't hold much longer. Day nodded calmly, though the weight of command had never felt heavier. Around him, the command staff worked frantically, rerouting power, coordinating fighter attacks, and trying to maintain Earth's defensive shield. They were all that stood between humanity and extinction. "We don't need to hold much longer," Day replied, checking the time. "Launch the Titans." Jun looked up in surprise. The existence of the Titan ships had been kept secret from all but the highest-ranking officers. "Sir, send the code. It's time." Jun transmitted the launch authorization to the hidden lunar base where the 3 massive battleships had been moved for their final preparations. On the far side of the moon, massive doors slid open in the surface of Earth's satellite, revealing a secret hangar built into one of the larger craters. Inside the Protector, Captain Han sat in the neural cradle that connected him directly to his ship. He was 34 years old, a veteran pilot who had fought in the first Concordat battle. His neural pattern had shown the strongest compatibility with the ancient ship technology. "Launch authorization received," reported his second-in-command. "All systems are green." Han closed his eyes as the neural interface activated. The sensation was unlike anything he had experienced before. It wasn't like sitting in a ship or even controlling it remotely. As the connection deepened, his consciousness expanded. He could feel every part of the 5-kilometer-long vessel as if it were his own body. He could sense the power flowing through its systems, the energy building in its weapons. "Protector launching," he said, though speaking aloud was unnecessary. The ship responded to his thoughts, rising smoothly from the lunar surface, followed closely by its sister ships, Defender and Guardian. The 3 Titans accelerated toward Earth at speeds that defied conventional physics. The neural pilots had discovered that the ancient propulsion systems could bend space itself, creating bubbles of distorted reality that allowed for movement faster than should be possible. In the command center, Admiral Dai watched as 3 new signals appeared on his tactical display, approaching rapidly from the moon. "What are those?" asked one of the junior officers. "Our salvation, if we're lucky," Day replied. "All vessels, be advised. Friendly ships entering the combat zone. Designation: Titan. Adjust your tactics to support their approach." The remaining Earth ships shifted their positions, creating a corridor for the Titans to enter the battle. The Concordat forces, seeing this maneuver, concentrated their fire on this apparent weakness in the human formation. It was exactly what Dai had hoped for. The Titans emerged from behind Earth, their massive forms finally visible to the Concordat fleet. Each ship dwarfed even the largest alien vessels. They gleamed with an otherworldly light, their hulls decorated with symbols that matched those found in Earth's ancient ruins and in the Concordat's fearful legends. "We're in range," Han reported from the Protector. "Engaging weapons systems." What happened next astonished even those who had helped build the Titans. The ancient ships revealed capabilities beyond anything humanity had previously wielded: gravity manipulation, targeted wormhole generation, and energy weapons that could disable rather than destroy. The Protector fired first, releasing a pulse of energy that spread across a section of the Concordat fleet. Ships caught in the field found their gravity systems reversed, throwing alien crews against ceilings and disrupting their targeting systems. The Defender created localized distortions in spacetime, causing Concordat energy beams to bend away from Earth vessels. The Guardian deployed drones that moved between dimensions, appearing inside Concordat ships to disable key systems before vanishing again. The effect on the Concordat forces was immediate and dramatic. Their neat formation broke apart as ships tried to evade the Titans. Human listening posts intercepted their communications, now filled with panic. "World Eaters. The legends were true. The destroyers have returned. All vessels retreat. We cannot face them." A massive Concordat dreadnought, apparently commanded by a braver or more foolish captain than the others, turned its main weapon directly at the Protector. The energy beam that fired could have cut through an asteroid. Inside his neural cradle, Captain Han didn't press buttons or shout orders. He merely thought about a response, and the Titan ship created a micro-wormhole directly in the path of the incoming beam. The deadly energy disappeared into the hole, and emerged from a second wormhole behind the dreadnought, striking its engines. The Concordat vessel exploded in a brilliant flash that temporarily blinded sensors across the battlefield. "All Earth ships press the advantage," ordered Admiral Day, his voice firm but containing a hint of hope for the first time. "Form up behind the Titans and target disabled enemy vessels." Earth's conventional forces rallied behind the three ancient warships. Fighter squadrons, seeing the tide turning, attacked with renewed courage. Damaged Earth vessels limped back into formation, their crews fighting despite injuries and systems failures. The Concordat fleet began to pull back, abandoning their formation and attempting to retreat. Some ships managed to jump to faster-than-light speed, but many were too damaged or too slow to escape. In the command center, a cheer went up as the tactical display showed the enemy forces breaking apart. Admiral Day raised his hand for silence. "This isn't over," he said firmly. "The Titans have given us an advantage, but the Concordat still outnumbers us. Continue the attack. Don't let them regroup." The battle continued for another 4 hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Titans moved through the combat zone like gods of war, their ancient technology making mockery of the Concordat's most advanced weapons. Where they went, Earth ships followed, picking off damaged alien vessels and protecting the Titans' flanks. By the time the last Concordat ship retreated or surrendered, Earth had lost 28 ships. The aliens had lost over 300. Captain Han finally disconnected from the neural interface, his body drenched in sweat, his mind reeling from the experience of being one with the ancient warship. As the neural connection faded, he felt strangely diminished, as if part of himself had been left behind. "Are you all right, sir?" asked his second-in-command. Han nodded slowly. "I think so. It's just, I could feel everything the ship could do. And I think we've only scratched the surface of what the Titans are capable of." On Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the victory spread. But in the command center, Admiral Dai was already thinking ahead. The Concordat had been driven back, but not destroyed. And now that the Titans had revealed themselves, what would the aliens do next? The Concordat fleet broke apart as the Titans continued their relentless advance. Alien ships scattered across space, some fleeing at maximum speed, others powering down weapons in surrender. The battle that had threatened Earth's existence ended not with the expected extinction of humanity, but with the shocking defeat of the invaders. Admiral Dai stood on the bridge of the EFSS Defender, watching the holographic display as Concordat vessels either jumped to faster-than-light travel or transmitted surrender codes. His uniform was wrinkled from days without rest, but his posture remained perfect. 14 Concordat capital ships have surrendered, sir," reported Tactical Officer June. "Their flagship is requesting direct communication with our command." Day nodded. "Bring their commander aboard. Maximum security protocols." 3 hours later, the alien commander was escorted to the Defender's conference room. The being was taller than most humans, with blue-tinted skin and 4 large eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. It wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor, now stripped of weapons. "I am called Speaker," the alien said through a translation device. "I speak for the Concordat High Command." Admiral Dai studied the alien with calm intensity. "I am Admiral Dai of the Earth Federation. You attacked our world without provocation. Thousands of my people are dead because of your actions. Why did you fear us so much?" Speaker lowered all 4 eyes, a gesture that the translation software indicated showed deep shame or regret. "Our histories tell of the world eaters who brought only destruction. For 50,000 years, we have watched for their return. When our deep space observers detected your quantum signatures, matching those in our ancient warnings." "Your histories are wrong," interrupted Professor Ta, who had joined the meeting at Admiral Dai's request. The old scientist activated a display panel, showing images and text recovered from the underground complex in the Gobi Desert. "These are the true records of the civilization you feared," Professor Todd explained, her voice firm but not unkind. "We've translated enough to understand what really happened. The display showed massive ships, identical to the Titans, defending smaller worlds against strange dark vessels. The ancient world eaters weren't conquerors but protectors, Professor Ta continued. They called themselves the Shield of Dawn. For thousands of years, they defended younger races against an extragalactic threat, beings they called the Void Hunters. Speaker's four eyes widened as it studied the ancient records. This contradicts everything in our histories. History is often written by those who survive, not those who sacrifice, Admiral Day said quietly. Lieutenant Yuna, who had been analyzing additional data recovered from the Gobi complex, stepped forward. According to these records, the final battle against the Void Hunters nearly destroyed the Shield of Dawn civilization. With their numbers critically low, they made a desperate choice. The display changed to show genetic sequences and what appeared to be star charts centered on Earth. Humans are revealed to be descendants of the last Protector civilization, Yuna explained. Our ancestors genetically modified themselves to survive on Earth, seeding the planet with their DNA while hiding evidence of their technology until we would be ready to reclaim it. Speaker touched the display with a long, six-fingered hand. Your ancestors altered your memories and capabilities, it said softly. They hid you on Earth to keep your warrior skills alive, knowing the threat would one day return. Return? Admiral Day asked sharply. Are you saying the Void Hunters still exist? Speaker nodded, its movements suddenly weary. Our deepest space observatories have detected anomalies at the galaxy's edge, objects moving against the stellar currents. We believe they were you, returning to finish what your ancestors started. That is why we attacked first. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications became clear. The Concordat's fear had been misplaced, but not entirely unfounded. A greater threat loomed, one that had nearly destroyed an advanced civilization 50,000 years ago. Admiral Daz stepped forward and, in a gesture that surprised everyone, extended his hand toward Speaker. Then perhaps we can protect the galaxy together, not as enemies, but as allies against this common threat. Speaker looked at the offered hand, hesitated, then reached out with its own. The Concordat has much to atone for. If what you say is true, we have attacked the very guardians we will need. In the weeks that followed, a new galactic compact was negotiated. The Concordat agreed to reparations for their unprovoked attack, while Earth shared the technology recovered from the ancient complex. The three Titans became the core of a joint defense force, with plans to build more as pilots with suitable neural patterns were identified and trained. Scientists from both civilizations worked together to understand the ancient technology and prepare for the potential return of the Void Hunters. Other species, once kept at arm's length by the Concordat, out of fear they might be World Eater allies, were invited to join the new alliance. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Captain Hand stood on the observation deck of the Protector. The massive ship was no longer just a weapon, but had become a symbol of the new interstellar order. Through the viewport, he could see the shipyards where more Titans were under construction, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. Beautiful view, said Admiral Da, joining him at the viewport. Han nodded. I never imagined we would find peace through war. Not peace, Da cautioned. Not yet. Speaker's people have confirmed the anomalies at the galaxy's edge are growing. The Void Hunters may be returning sooner than we hoped. But this time, we won't face them alone, Han said, watching as ships from a dozen worlds moved in formation around the Protector. Concordat vessels flew alongside Earth ships, their crews now training together. No, Dad agreed. Not alone. He touched the viewport glass thoughtfully. You know what's strangest to me? For centuries, humanity's greatest fear was that we were alone in the universe. Then we feared we would meet hostile aliens who would destroy us. Instead, we found our purpose. Han smiled slightly. To be guardians. Yes, Daz said. Not conquerors, not the feared warriors of legend, but protectors. The Shield of Dawn reborn. He turned away from the viewport. The neural pilots report that the Titans contain star maps of systems we haven't explored yet, worlds that may need our protection when the Void Hunters return. Then we should get moving, Han replied. We have a galaxy to prepare. As the Protector's engines hummed to life, Han returned to the neural cradle that connected him to the ancient vessel. As his consciousness expanded to merge with the ship, he felt a sense of rightness, of coming home. The stars beckoned, not as conquests, but as responsibilities. Humanity had found its place in the cosmos at last. The end